People like yourself, you just mentioned that it's like relatively low budget, but it was, I think, 80 million, which I think's massive amount of money. And I had a joke. I think our budget was a lot less to start with, but COVID pushed it up. But anyone who, you're not allowed when you make a film like this to ever say the sentence, "We can't afford to do that because we only have $80 million. Like, someone should be punched in the face who says that sentence.
What do you want, sweetie?
For robots to be free.
Oh, we don't have that in the fridge. How about ice cream?
Interesting, yeah. You know what's funny is it's not, like, I have a lot of films that I've carried in my pocket since I was a kid where I'm like, if I don't do this before I die, I failed. And weirdly, this movie was not one of those films. It was after Star Wars. I was looking for a movie which could be that combination of a blockbuster and a guerrilla independent film, like the two kind of fused together. And I had a lot of ideas, like I had ones that I had carried in my pocket, but the reality was they were too expensive or they couldn't lend themselves to this world. And I thought for a long time, I'm not gonna be able to think of anything, it's not gonna work. And then I was writing a kind of more ambitious film, which happened to have robots in it, and ended up in Thailand, and then got invited to Vietnam to join a friend on a little week's holiday. So I was like, okay, why not? So I go, and because I was thinking about robots, I ended up spending the whole of that trip kind of witnessing all these visuals that I associate with the Vietnam War and movies like Apocalypse Now and Platoon, but picturing robots. And I started thinking, this is really exciting. Like the idea, like there's so many examples of people taking that kind of warfare, like even Star Wars, you know, did this, but they're taking that kind of warfare and putting it into space, putting it, into science fiction, like Aliens, and I was like, why don't we get the science fiction and bring it down to Vietnam? And it was something, I just thought, so if I don't make this movie, someone else is gonna make it, and I'll be so jealous of that person. And also it fitted in with this, I think I could do this. This is kind of that Monsters meets Rogue One kind of combo that I was looking for. And so I just got really into it and really pushed to try and get it made, yeah. People like yourself, you just mentioned that it's relatively low budget, but it was, I think, 80 million, which I think's massive amount of money. And I had a joke. I think our budget was a lot less to start with, but COVID pushed it up. But anyone who, you're not allowed when you make a film like this to ever say the sentence, "We can't afford to do that because we only have $80 million. Like someone should be punched in the face who says that sentence. And so it's like everything should be possible, right? Jonathan, who was our special effects supervisor, there were times where it would be very intimate. I tried to create a situation where I wanted to be able to see 360 degrees and not have crew hanging around. So the only people that were allowed near the camera were people who were really fast at moving, which was the sound guy, and had an assistant camera, and maybe the AD and the actors, And so we had a lot of freedom. We looked like a tiny little guerrilla film at times, but then on other times, it was more like David Lean movie, where we had hundreds of extras and explosions and smoke and yeah, so we had this I asked Jonathan, who was the special effects guy, I was like, I need lots of smoke. What's the biggest smoke machine you could possibly take to Thailand? He said, well, there's a massive one, but we have to ship it out, and I can't move it. It has to live in the back of a truck. So wherever we use it, we have to take the truck. And he jokingly referred to it as the giant motherfucker. And so like we were on this bridge sequence in the floating village in this big tank battle section of the movie, and we knew we needed lots of smoke because of the way it was designed. And I was like, we need the giant motherfucker. And he was like, I can't because you're on the river. I can't get the truck down there. So they figured out a way to get the truck onto a boat. And then the problem was the bridge, they couldn't get the boat the other side of the bridge. It would take a whole day to do that. And so if the wind changed direction, all the smoke just went somewhere else. So every day he had to gamble and do little tests and make sure the giant motherfucker was in the right place. And he gambled right, thank God. He always got it right. And then obviously in the computer afterwards, we help all that stuff. But I think having something real as a starting point helps all the visual effects. For that, we never did really anything against green screen. Everything, we went to 80 different locations, 8 countries around the world. It was all, the goal was to give everybody, like, never have a storyboard, just a storyboard, and never have green screen. Always have a piece of footage that like looks like the final thing from the movie as much as possible. Everything was challenging. It was less an individual scene and more just the sheer amount of scenes. We shot for about 6 months and went to like the Himalayas and went to volcanoes in Indonesia and Cambodia and Thailand and Vietnam and Tokyo and I think it was the sheer like just non-stop. Like normally on a movie or even making a small film, you shoot for a month or so, and we would be 2 months in and not even a third of the way through. And it was like, if you kept thinking about that, you would want to die. And so it was, but every single day we're in a new location with some amazing vista or amazing, beautiful valley or you know, island or something. And you would just get excited because there were so many opportunities to do really nice cinematic shots and things. And so it was like a contrast, like a schizophrenic, like love and hate relationship really with the film. It is very difficult to get an original science fiction, big budget film greenlit, like really difficult. We managed to do it because we tricked the studio into, like, they gave us some money to do a location scout, and we sneakily took a camera with us, but they hadn't committed to the film, like, fully. And so we took a camera and we filmed in, like, 7 different countries in Southeast Asia, and I made a little short film. And then I went up to Industrial Light and Magic, who do, like, Marvel and Star Wars films, and tried to talk about this process of working backwards and designing on top of the final shots. And they were kind of nervous, but agreed to do it. And it turned out to be really efficient. And then we showed that short to the studio, and they knew how little money we had. And they were like, wow, if you can do that, if you can do 10 minutes like that, you know, 2 hours should cost X. And they got excited, and they gave us the money. But it was, if we hadn't done that, we would not have got the film made. It was, the biggest problem, which is the honest truth, is that when you sit in these rooms and they tell you we don't want to make that kind of film, and you ask why, they say because it doesn't make money. People don't want to see that kind of movie anymore. They want to see a superhero movie. And they're not wrong, you know what I mean? Like the statistics prove that that's true. And so I'd say to anybody, like, whatever film you like, no matter what it is, it doesn't matter what it is, whatever movies you're into, please go see them at the cinema. Because when those filmmakers go back and want to do another movie, if they weren't seen at the cinema and they didn't make money, they don't get to do it again, you know what I mean? And you just get the same old thing every time. And so like, it's a democracy, and you get to vote with your cinema ticket. So please go to the cinema, and whatever it is you love, it doesn't matter, just go see it. think if there's one film I would love everyone to see, it's a film called Baraka. It's by a director called Ron Frick. Do you know, I can never say this, Cornuscazzi? So basically, he was the cinematographer on Cornuscazzi, and he went off and directed his own film. And I think it's just like one of the greatest movies ever made. It's like, if you like 2001 and Apocalypse Now, it's that kind of film. It's like God-like cinema, like as if it's very objective, very spiritual, like there's no dialogue, it's no story, it's just like, I feel like if God made a video diary, it would probably look like that. To start with, I love science fiction, so I wanted to do a film about robots and stuff. But to start with, it was just a metaphor, because I started writing it in 2018 when none of this was really happening, and it was more like a fairy tale, like a metaphor about people who are different to us. And then the more you explore AI, the more these philosophical dilemmas come to the surface. One of the podcasts I listened to about AI that I found fascinating was this woman had done an experiment where she gave people a toy bunny, and it would talk and walk, and they had to interact with it for 30 minutes or a while, and then she gave them a sledgehammer and said, smash up the toy and I'll pay you $100. And nobody could do it because even though they knew it was plastic, and it's something about human nature, we just start to care about something that feels like us. And that sort of thing is like super interesting to me. And so what's so weird is watching the movie now is when we were writing it, the biggest note we got from the studio 4 years ago was, but why would you ban AI? Like, why would anyone ban it? It's an amazing thing. They'll do they'll be able to do anything we want. And now in 2023, it's kind of like the default setting is to ban AI. And people are going to come to the cinema like with their arms folded, like hating robots and the idea of AI. And so that's a really good thing for the movie. And it's a very strange thing. Like science fiction's not supposed to predict the future, it's just supposed to prevent it. And yeah, so I don't know what's going to happen in 30 years, but I had to pick a date when you wrote the movie, and I picked 2070, and I joke that I should have picked like 2024 because it's come a lot quicker than we thought.